On a Sunday morning in New York, that can only mean one thing. It's time for brunch. Today I'm going to show you my favorite bagel spread. It's made out of lox or smoked salmon, and it's absolutely delicious. Bagels with lox are a classic New York brunch dish. Basically, it's smoked salmon layered on a bagel, usually with cream cheese. You can add onions, capers, tomatoes. It really can go a lot of ways. What I've done is I've taken all those ingredients and kind of made them into a spread. And that way, we have all the flavors in a little bit more an easier to eat form. Sometimes you find the onion slides, the tomato slides, you end up with the smoked salmon or the lox on the plate. It can get a little bit messy, so I've eliminated that problem. This dish was actually inspired by a lox spread that I have bought before at Citarella. It's a chain of supermarkets in New York City, and I loved theirs, so I had to rush home and try to figure out the way I could kind of recreate it myself. And I think I've gotten close, but it has a little bit of my own spin on it based on what I like on my lox bagel sandwiches. So, we'll start like this. I have here a ½ pound of Nova lox, Nova smoked salmon. And I got it at my local bagel shop. If you don't live in the New York area and you don't have bagel shops, you can get it packaged in like a sealed plastic, like the shrink wrap. They have it in those kind of packages that come from Alaska, come from Nova Scotia, and probably the refrigerated section of your supermarket. But like I said, I got this at my bagel shop. So, just going to take it out of the package. Now, for this process, I'm using my food processor, and that's mostly because I like to have as little contact with my hands with the smoked salmon as possible, because it tends to cling. So, I put it in the food processor, so basically I only have to put it in there and touch it that time. So, get the smoked salmon off of the paper, and get it all into the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can definitely chop it by hand with a knife. Like I said, this minimizes my contact with the fish. It's great, but stinks with your hands. So I have all my lox here in my food processor bowl. Now I'm going to start adding the flavors that will make it into that lox and cream cheese type of sandwich, but we're going to make it into this spread. And really, at home I call this a schmear. If you're from the New York area, you'll probably know what I'm referring to. And the reason that I distinguish that from a spread is that a lot of times when you hear lox spread, you think of a really dense cream cheese based spread that has just a little bit of lox in it. So you have the lox flavor, but the proportion is more cream cheese to fish. So this is really entirely the lox and the additional ingredients and just a little bit of cream cheese to bind it together. So really, let's call it a schmear from here and on out. Okay, so I have the lox in the bowl, and I do add a little bit of cream cheese, kind of to give it that spreadable consistency, although the oils in the fish really help with that. I add 1 tablespoon of the cream cheese. Oh, that's a little bit more than that, but about a tablespoon. So we add that in. Cream cheese. Okay. Next, we're going to add some lemon juice. Lemon juice is always great with fish, and I always like to squeeze a little bit of top on my lox and cream cheese sandwiches. So, I'll put a little bit here in the bowl. I'm going to do the juice of 1 lemon. And that kind of helps to break down the cream cheese and make it a little bit less dense. Be careful of those pits. I think I took most of them out before I started. So, here's where you get a little bit of creativity in the process. I have to have capers when I have lox and cream cheese, so I put capers in. If you don't like them, leave them out. That's fine. I put probably about a tablespoon of capers too. I lost my measuring spoon. So, yeah, maybe a little more than that. It's a creative process. Just go with it. So we got the capers. Capers give a lovely, briny, salty, kind of acidic flavor, so that complements the fish well. It cuts the greasiness of the fish, so that's great. So, onions, must have. Put a little bit of onion in. Maybe 1/8 of a cup, a little less than 1/4. For a little more mild onion flavor, I put in a little bit of scallion. Same amount, a handful. Okay, so we're going to mix it up in the food processor. And we don't want this to be like really smooth. We want it to be a little bit chunky, have a little bit of texture. So you still get the little bits of lox like you would if you had slices on a bagel. So you're going to pulse it and check it out every now and then. That looks good. So what was that? Maybe 3 seconds pulse? If you come in here, you can see the consistency that we have. It's kind of chunky. It's a little bit almost like a coleslaw texture, kind of just a little flaky, and we still have the consistency of the chunks of the vegetables and the onions and everything that we put in there. So now let me give it a taste. That's great. I'm put a little bit of pepper. And we'll mix that in. Another spoon. Kind of like a blank canvas. If you want a little bit more lemon, a little more caper, that's up to you. The only ingredient that always goes on a lox and cream cheese sandwich, or most people like, is tomato. The reason that I don't put it in the bowl and mix it in is because the tomatoes are so watery that it's going to make your mixture a little bit runny. So if you like the tomatoes, you spread this on your bagel, preferably toasted, you put on your schmear, and you can put a little bit of tomatoes on top. So that way you get the tomato flavor without hurting the texture of the mixture. So, happy Sunday, enjoy your brunch, you gotta try this lox schmear. Enjoy!